The Stellar Exodus. Before the Age of Technology, mankind used its sub-light speed capable spaceships to head out from Terra's solar system and colonize new systems. With such slow space travel, many of these colonies had very limited contact with Terra and needed to become self-sufficient, in time forming their own distinct cultures or languages. Then came the Age of Technology, now referred to commonly as the Dark Age of Technology. It is a time period with great technological achievements, where mankind created its first interstellar-capable spaceships and set out to colonize the stars. It is referred to as dark because of its emphasis on science above all else. Its use of technology is now deemed dangerous and heretical, and because the Emperor had not yet revealed himself to mankind. With the creation of the warp drive, an engine capable of allowing spaceships to perform short jumps through the warp to cover vast interstellar distances, and the Geller field, a device which emits a force field to create a bubble of reality around ships to protect them from the forces of the warp, the human race was able to reach further out into space and create interstellar trade. At this time, humanity would have its first encounters with alien races. To guide humanity's spaceships through the warp, the Navigator Gene was created. This gene resulted in the birth of mutant, psychic humans with a third eye, which allowed them to see the currents of the warp and safely navigate ships to their destinations. Due to their integral role in space travels, Navigator families would gain much power and wealth. A major technological achievement of mankind was the creation of the Standard Template Construct, or STC, database system. They stored all human scientific knowledge and schematics for creating any design. With this technology at their disposal, it allowed human colonies to thrive and mankind to spread largely unopposed through the galaxy. Then, the Men of Iron were created, artificially intelligent humanoid constructs meant for labor and war. They allowed humanity to expand faster through the stars and crush any enemy that may oppose them. But eventually, they turned on their creators, and the cybernetic revolt began, a war which humanity ultimately won, but which destroyed countless systems and shattered the economic and military strength and political unity of the human race. This also led to a deep-rooted fear and aversion to artificial intelligence, which has been maintained into the 41st century. The need to replace artificial intelligence led to the creation of the servitors. These mindless cyborg workers, made from vat-grown humans or convicts, would come to replace many of the tasks of the Men of Iron without the risk of them ever revolting. A great warp storm would later make warp travel impossible throughout the galaxy, leaving each system to fend for itself. An already weakened interstellar human federation was broken apart. Terra, with its enormous population and sprawling cities, depended on trade, and soon broke down into starvation and wars. This would mark the end of the Age of Technology, the Age of Strife. The impassable warp storms raged for thousands of years. Psychers had popped up during the Age of Technology, and depending on the planet, had either been embraced or persecuted. Planets who would embrace their psychers were mostly destroyed, as they were used as portals for demons to enter reality. Planets who had suppressed their psyker populations were able to survive. This led to a deep-rooted fear of psychers, which persisted into the 41st millennium. On Terra, all sense of order broke down, and large empires of techno-barbarians fought over the scraps left by the Age of Technology. Empires such as Ursh, the Pan-Pacific Empire, the Indonesic bloc, Germany, Chiptis, America, and Africa existed and were led by warlords or religious zealots. During the fighting, most of the oceans were vaporized by nuclear war. This fighting would rage across the planet for 2,500 years. During the same time, order on Mars was established by the tech priests of the Mechanicum after a brief war with psychers on the planet. These tech priests worshipped technology and would replace large parts of their bodies with robotics. They sought to rediscover lost technology and would even journey to Terra to retrieve it. They watched for fluctuations in the warp, and whenever a weakening was detected, they would send out expeditions to establish forge worlds in other systems. During the fighting on Terra, the Emperor, an immensely powerful human psyker, would reveal himself. He had long guided humanity from the shadows as different historical identities, but decided, for humanity to prevail, he would need to be more directly involved. Through experimenting with the human genetic code, he would create the Thunder Warriors, superhuman warriors, and the forerunners to the Space Marines. They were physically enhanced humans, wearing the first suits of power armor, but they were both mentally and physically unstable and had shorter lifespans, intended for only one purpose, the Unification Wars. With this new army of Thunder Warriors, the Emperor would reconquer Terra and bring order. With the Unification Wars coming to an end, the Emperor began creating the Primarchs from his own genes and the power of the warp. 20 superhuman military commanders with amazing physical and mental attributes. The Emperor knew these Primarchs would be essential in protecting the human race and fighting its most dangerous adversary, Chaos. But the Chaos gods discovered his plan and stole the Primarchs and scattered them throughout the galaxy. The Emperor took the genetic material left from creating the Primarchs and created the Space Marines. The Emperor made a treaty with the Mechanicum of Mars that they would join the Imperium as long as they could remain largely autonomous. The religion of their tech priests was respected, and they could regain control of their lost forge worlds. With access to Mars and its forges, this provided the industrial backing for the Imperium. They would build fleets, arm the Space Marines, and send their Titan legions with the Emperor's forces. The warp storms were beginning to calm at the end of the Age of Strife, but in order to push deeper into space, a new solution would be needed. The Emperor worked to create the Astronomicon on Terra, a device that allowed him to generate a telepathic signal through the warp, which created a fixed point from which the navigators could use in calculating courses. Without this, navigating the warp would not be possible. During the age of technology, other, more scientific approaches had been used, but had been lost to time. Thus, the Great Crusade began, a 200-year period where the Imperium spread through the galaxy again, establishing contacts with surviving human worlds, conquering new worlds, and facing new adversaries. During this time, all of the lost Primarchs were one by one recovered as the Imperium expanded. They would become the leaders of the Space Marine chapters created from their genetic gene seed and would be the driving force of the Great Crusade. The Empire of Man was greatly expanded and recaptured some of its former glory. The Emperor sought to wipe out religious superstitions and focus humanity on technological advances and unity, but some began to worship him as a god. During the height of the Great Crusade, the Emperor stepped down from leading to return to Terra to begin work on a secret project, the Golden Throne. The device was part of his Imperial Webway project, which would open up the Eldar Webway to mankind and allow instantaneous travel throughout the galaxy that was safe from the warp. The project was kept secret from everyone, even the Primarchs, to prevent interference from Chaos or from the rich and powerful navigators who would no longer be necessary. Without the reliance on warp travel, the Emperor planned to remove the psyker gene from humanity and greatly reduce the ability of Chaos to affect humanity. When the Emperor left the Great Crusade, he promoted Horus, Primarch of the Luna Wolves, later to be called the Sons of Horus, to be the new War Master. Separation from their father the Emperor, misgivings about the selection of a War Master, and personality differences caused relationship issues between the Primarchs. Horus would lead the Great Crusade for a time, but eventually, after being mortally wounded, would succumb to the temptations of chaos. He would begin to gather Primarchs, Mechanicum, and other forces to his side. Magnus detected the forces of chaos working against Horus and attempted to unsuccessfully warn and aid him. Knowing that he had to warn the Emperor quickly about Horus's betrayal, Magnus began a ritual to allow him to psychically navigate to Terra from Prospero and warn the Emperor himself, knowing that a message sent via the normal route of astropaths, psychers who could send messages over great distances, could be intercepted or disregarded. Magnus used banned psychic abilities to open the Eldar gateway and use astral projection to get to Terra. Arriving at Terra, Magnus had to break through wards the Emperor had set up in creating the Golden Throne for the Imperial Webway project. This caused irreparable damage and allowed demons to enter into the Imperial Palace. This would distract the Emperor and a large number of Imperial forces during much of the Horus Heresy. The Horus Heresy, as it came to be known, would lead to the destruction of many worlds, the deaths of many Primarchs, and humanity being set further back technologically. The Primarchs Magnus and Fulgrim were possessed and transformed into demon lords, a fate that would soon befall many other Primarchs. The Horus Heresy culminated in a battle on Terra. In orbit above Terra, the Emperor defeated and killed Horus, but was mortally wounded. He was put back in the Golden Throne, which keeps him alive. Through it, he continues to project the Astronomicon, without which the Imperium could not exist. After the traitors' defeat, they were excommunicated by the Emperor and sentenced to be driven back into the Warp Rift, the Eye of Terror, which had opened up during the Horus Heresy. The traitor Space Marine legions and their Primarchs would be removed from official Imperial records, and chaos-tainted worlds would be scoured clean. This began a period known as the Great Scouring. The Imperium attempted to restore order and root out heresy. In the face of demons and chaos, the worship of the Emperor of Mankind as a god was formally adopted. The great Space Marine legions were divided into smaller chapters to help ensure something like the Horus Heresy could not happen again. For 10,000 years, the Emperor has been in the Golden Throne. The Imperium struggles to survive threats from within, external alien threats, and the powers of chaos. The Emperor is worshipped as a god. Psychers and the taint of chaos they represent are feared and severely restricted, and servitors are used because AI is seen as a great evil. Most technology has been lost from the age of technology, and even much recovered during the Great Crusade. Rare new technological advancements come from discovering old artifacts or ruins, and not from new scientific work. The Imperium struggles to maintain order in the face of so many threats. This is the 41st millennium, and there is only war.